Much for joining in today's session. Again, this is the culmination on the session that's held by Elias Omondi, which is on the regulatory frameworks. We are very grateful. I mean, that he's granted us this time, and he's granted us 3 sessions, and again 3 very detailed sessions. So we're looking forward to finalizing this. The program objective for the 2025 BIMA Lab Africa Regulator Program is to draft a policy paper. I think this is actually going to be the first of its kind in the continent that is focused on inclusive insurance, but it's going to be one that is drafted for the regulators for the purpose of ensuring, as we've mentioned here, a unified regulatory future for inclusive insurance in Africa. That being said, we picked on 3 thematic areas this year that we considered to be very powerful in building this unified regulatory future for inclusive insurance on the continent. The first being regulatory tools for innovation, and then the second was data sharing protocols and insurtech passporting, and finally the last one was new and emerging risks. We have had sessions that have covered all of these thematic areas, and I know even when we ran a poll previously and asked you to indicate your preference on which group you were interested in joining, a majority of you chose the regulatory tools for innovation. And unfortunately, we could not put all of you in that group. So we had to try and spread you as best as we could, and we did so just based off of your countries. There are other countries that do not have as many representatives as others do, but we try to do our best to ensure that there was at least universal representation in that regard. So we just revisiting again those thematic groups. All of this is what's going to culminate in this policy paper that we're trying to work on. I've seen some activity in the WhatsApp group. I've seen some people asking for members of their respective groups to kind of raise a hand or indicate who they are. And it's very important that you get together with one another and that you do this together. Again, the collaboration is what's going to make it great. And again, this is going to be African regulators doing this for African insurance, which is even going to make it a lot better. So I'm urging you to please, if you haven't responded to your colleagues' requests for the working groups, to please do so. Kindly reach out to them or respond to their messages. I want to add another session next week where we maybe spend some time with the working groups and just see what the roadblocks are, if there are any difficulties. I know that we're also being respectful of your time because you do have your job. So with that goes without saying. We understand that there is your obligation to your respective authority, but we would really appreciate it if we can set aside some time and just see where the challenges are, if there's anything that we can assist with, if there is maybe something that was not properly explained, we would like to revisit that again, and then just ensure that that all the working groups are in order. If you recall and I don't have that up right now, but if you recall, we had shared some timelines and deliverables, and we have the first one that is due on the 30th of this month. So we're looking at under 3 weeks to be able to deliver to be able to have something delivered for each of the working groups by the 30th of September this month. So it's just important that we get something going there. But again, we'll set aside some time next week in addition to our regular Thursday meeting, but we'll set aside a different day just to go over this. I will reach out to each of you again just to stress the importance of this. I'll do so by group, but I'll also do so collectively. And then we can get together and we can discuss what, if there are any challenges, but also just get some momentum going on the side of the working group. So I just wanted to take some time to spend some time discussing that with you, and just to let you know again the importance of this and also the importance of what you are doing as a result of participating in these working groups. If there are any email addresses that I have wrong, I know some have been brought to my attention. There was a list that I had sent to SAD and he had some that were rejected. I've cleaned that up. I did see what the error was, but I will reshare those again with each and every one of you. But let's just get the working groups going. And thank you so much for again, your patience throughout the program. Thank you for your attendance. So far, we have been getting the representation of almost every country showing up. So we are appreciative of that. But to the countries that had, more than one representative or more than two representatives, we would appreciate it if you all showed up. Again, that boosts the numbers, but also everyone gets on the same page in regards to what it is that we're trying to do. So I just want to say thank you for that. And I don't know if Neil has anything to add just before I step aside, but just wanted to say thank you.
Good morning, or good afternoon, everyone. This is Neil. Thank you, Alex. I think you pretty much summed it up. Again, this is kind of a new project. We do need everybody's participation, especially those that have signed up for the program. It's hard to coordinate these working groups if not everybody that has signed up for the program is not participating. So we do need everybody's attendance here, and pretty much Alex did sum it up. So let's keep forging ahead. Back to you, Alex.
All right, thank you, Neil. And once again, everyone, thank you again for your patience. I even just seen a message that somebody doesn't know what group they are in. Pepra, I will respond to you. I know that I placed you in one of the groups. I believe you are in group 2, data sharing protocols, but I will resend that again. And maybe yours is one of those emails where we received a challenge, and I apologize for that. So let me share that back with you. So I am going to now hand over to Elias. And then he will join us. I can see that he's on the call as we come to the culmination of this session that he is presenting to us on regulatory sandbox frameworks. So really, without any further ado, Elias, thank you again for joining us. Thank you for this 3-part series, which has been very, very illuminating and very interesting. And you have no idea how much they have been asking for the slides. So I'm sure they are looking forward to this getting finished. So let me hand over to you, and welcome to the stage, Elias.
All right. So thanks a lot. I just need to get some bottle of water. 1 minute. Once again, and I think this is the session that we'll be doing, the last session for the Sandbox. I know we've managed to go through two exciting episodes of the Sandbox, really trying to kind of articulate the process of sandbox design, different elements on how then you do you assess the applications, different stages of applications. And today my role will be just to kind of take you through like a sandbox assessment toolkit. So our goal today is to develop a toolkit. That's what we had agreed. Today we will be kind of getting a little bit technical in terms of developing toolkits that you can use for the purposes of sandbox assessment. Now, I know we are planning to have a session in Zambia, and we'll kind of get into more detailed development of this toolkit, because then with that, you guys will be having your laptops with you, and we'll kind of go step by step in designing a toolkit. So already I have I developed a couple of like a structure of it. Then importantly would be our goal as a team in Zambia to kind of now train you guys on tool like how then you can design tools and that you can use on assessment, and these will be something that will be culminating in a way of designing it for the purposes of utilizing the tool. Maybe before I start, it will be important to know which countries are represented because I don't see Nigeria. Is Nigeria in the room? Kenya, Ghana, Zambia, Zimbabwe. I just wanted to kind of get to know which countries are currently represented. So if you can quickly say the countries, you can unmute, say which countries are in, and then we proceed.
Yes, James Ndwiga, Kenya, we are in.
Kenya is in.
Zimbabwe is in.
Zimbabwe is in.
Ghana is in.
Ghana is in.
Namibia is in.
Namibia is in. So Alex, I need to get Nigeria, I need to get Uganda, Rwanda.
Okay. Morocco is
Morocco
in.
is in.
Yeah. Botswana is in. Kagiso, I can see Kagiso.
All right, so let me then continue. So guys, ladies and gentlemen, today we will be kind of getting a little bit practical in terms of developing a Sandbox application risk assessment toolkit. You know, most of the time you'll be receiving these applications and you kind of ask yourself, you know, from an analyst perspective, then how do you relay that information to your managers or you know, your CEO in terms of, you know, we can go ahead and license this insurtech or this innovation. And what we've been trying to do, or basically what I've been trying to think through, is then how can we develop an assessment toolkit to enable this work to be done. So today, this is what I'll be kind of taking you guys through, a number of steps. And thereafter, we will go into an Excel toolkit to enable us to, you know, kind of get an opportunity to design an assessment toolkit. Now, I did mention that what does this tool will be able to do. So I just want to introduce to you a tool that you know, you will be using. And you know, the reason why I want to go into step-by-step training of this is that you can design it by yourself, and you can design it within your own supervisory and mandate as a supervisor. So there are two things. It will kind of give you a very systematic process on how then you quantify the expected benefits and risks. You know, one of the key things when you are when an application will come to you, you'll have to quantify what are the benefits of this innovation and what are some of the risks that you know, this innovation do provide. So within that, then it will also give you a way of looking at the levels of benefits and the risk into the overall assessment. So it kind of enables you to check whether, you know, the benefits of the application that you've gotten offsets the risks that are there on in terms of the sandbox. Then, you know, it will kind of structure your thinking in a more formalized manner. It also will enable you to record inputs and reasoning for future reference, and also allows you to track the risk and the benefit profile of applicants across the cohort. So in this particular case, then you can have an overall view of what kind of applications you are receiving, and knowing, you know, what are some of the risks, what are some of the benefits, and kind of putting that together for the future assessment. What it will not do for you, again, it will not make a decision for you. So you'll have to make that decision based on the results that you are going to get. And, you know, one of the key things is that, you know, it will help you make better decisions and understand your benefits. So that is something that I wanted to kind of put in place. Now, the tool that we are going to develop will have two broad areas and how it will be operating. So this kind of shows you a structure of how our assessments will be done, and then kind of looking at how you are going to either approve or not approve. So the first thing is that if you remember the first two sessions that we held, there is an eligibility criteria that you have to set up as a regulator or as an authority. So you have to perform an eligibility assessment, and we are going to look at how then that works in a tool setup. So in this case, then you can have a 3-level risk, low, medium, and high, or you can have 5 levels whereby you start with very low, medium, high, and extreme. And then once you've done your eligibility assessment, then there are two things that the applications will have. So you need, whenever you receive an application from an innovator, you'll ask yourself, where is the benefit that this particular application will provide to the market? So we are going to do an assessment, a benefit assessment, and thereafter we are going to do what we call a risk assessment. What level of risk does this application really kind of present to us? Then we are going to combine that. So we are going to combine and test desirability. So in this case, then, if you look at the benefit, we are saying it's at green. If you look at the risk assessment, you are saying that risk is at the orange, so it's amber. Then say that the benefit assessment is 1 in terms of the risk exposure. Then the risk assessment, you say it's a 3. So you'll get an average of the two. So 1 plus 3 divided by 2 gives you a combined desirability test of, say, a 2, because it's 1 plus 3 divided by 2, that's 4/2. Then it gives you a 2. Then you kind of look at where that sits. Then if that is where you want to push it forward in terms of whether you approve or not, then it goes to level 6. If it doesn't, then you take it back to the applicant and say, okay, fine, can you enhance the benefit? Can you reduce the risk? And then you kind of take it through the same assessment level. Now, the first step, and this is something that we are going to do practically using Excel. The first thing is that you have to filter all applications that do not meet the minimum criteria before you get into the in-depth assessment. So you don't need to, in a way, pass all applications through this assessment. You are going only to pass the applications to this through this assessment if they meet the minimum criteria that you've set up. And then you'll have a number of questions that will be coming through that assessment or the application that these people will be completing. So for instance, is the application within, say, the regulator's scope? So that's a yes or a no. Is the application genuinely innovative? So again, and we are going to look at this in more detail. That's a yes or a no. Is the application sufficiently mature to participate in the sandbox? Yes or a no. Is there a need for innovation? Is there a need for innovation support from the regulator? So that's also a yes or a no. So again, the application must pass all criteria to move to the step 2, whereby you are going to do a benefit and a risk assessment. And if we go to that next level, then the second step has 2 levels. So there is a step 2A and there is a step 2B. Remember, here we are going to assess the desirability of the benefit. So, we kind of ask ourselves, support the innovation and development. So does this innovation kind of support innovation and development of financial technology? Is there any use of technology, and how is that technology being adopted? So is it medium? Is it high? Is it low? So again, you'll kind of get a score around that. So then you want to see whether that technology will enhance competitiveness of the digital financial services. Is that quite good? So what is the risk? So is it high risk? And what is the score you're giving it? Is it One, is it a two, is it a three, or is it a four? And within that, then you're going to really have different levels. So the benefit scoring will be if, there is a low benefit around it, then this will score one. If it's a moderate benefit around the technology or whether this technology will enhance access or usage of those formal services, then you are going to give it a score. Then whether is it medium benefit or very high benefit. So again, we'll kind of come up with a structure to measure different levels of benefit and how then these benefits will impact on the market in the long run. Then as you proceed, then you'll kind of use that same approach that you are using to assess the benefits to now look at what are some of the risks. Remember, risk is usually a measure between impact and the likelihood. So when you are computing risk, you kind of look at what will be the impact of the failure compared to the likelihood of it happening. So for instance, you'll have a scale of, say, from 1 to 4, whereby 1 is low and 4 is high. Then you really look at what is the risk that would definitely have. So if you're looking at it from the risk assessment, the key thing will be on customers and vulnerability of those customers to the potential of this innovation not working through. So in terms of, if it fails, what is the level of failure? And maybe if it's issues around ML risks and their potential, the level of fraud that maybe these customers might be exposed to when it comes to the use of this technology, then how then do you measure that? So I think the most important thing here is then if you look at it from the desirability of any regulator is to protect the customers. So when you are looking at consumer protection, then vulnerability of those customers to these exposures of risk and also issues around AML and CFT would be very critical to the assessment. And again, we are going to do a practical example around this. So once you've managed to do that, then we'll kind of now combine the benefits and the risks. So remember, we are looking into developing like a heat map that we are going to use it for assessment. And then that heat map is what is likely to give us the outcome for each combination of benefit and risk. So for instance, think about this. The benefit outcome moves from high benefit to low benefit. The risk outcome moves from high risk to low risk. Now, if you kind of put this in an X and Y axis, so the risk is on the Y axis, the benefits is on the X axis. So look at the diagram that is currently on your right. So you'll get that it moves from low risk to high risk on the Y axis. Then we move from low benefit to high benefit on the x-axis. Now, depending on where you want your innovations to be, you want your innovations to be between the yellow and the green. So there's and that the intersection between risk and benefit will give you the desirability of what you want to approve from a company perspective. So this is what really we will be trying to develop and see what criteria we should be able to support in the long run. Now, the most important thing here is the combinations, because for you as a regulator, you want to make sure that the risk or basically the innovation that comes to your market will have a very high benefit to your customers. At the same time, the level of risk would kind of not be very quite high. Now, interestingly, if you look at high risk and you kind of move with high risk to where there is high benefit. You'll see some applications will be having a very high risk, but given that they'll be having high benefit, then there's an opportunity to basically take them to market because they'll still be at that level of desirability. Let me give you an example. Assume that the high risk here, a company scores a 4, right? Then for high benefit, a company scores a 1. Okay, so 1 plus 4 divide by 2 gives you 2.5, which is close to 3. And that basically means that you would say that my desirability ranges would anything below 3 is what I'll take. So assume that a company has a medium risk, which is a 3, and it has a moderate benefit, which is a 2. So 3 plus 2 divide by 2, that brings to a 2.5. Then again, that is something within the desirability that, you know, a company or you as a regulator will be expecting. Now, the desirability threshold will be dependent with you as an institution. So you'll really have to think through, you know, what would be my desirability from the perspective of, you know, what I'm looking to achieve from a regulatory spectrum. Right. So this is just an illustration that you know, we are going to really work across this in more detail. So you'll have different topics or different things that you want to check from 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 a benefit assessment perspective. So you'll have different questions that you'll be trying to answer, and based on those questions, you'll kind of complete and see where how then what risk comes along out of them. So here you'll see that does the application support innovation development of fintechs or insurtechs? Then you really need to ask yourself to what extent does the application address challenges and all of that. So you'll kind of give it different scores. So I'll kind of get into a tool to illustrate this in more detail. But if you look at it from other perspectives, so impact at scale, how likely is this applicant reaching the significant scale? So do they have some impact? Are they really likely to make a difference? Issues around potential to create jobs. You know, jobs is still a big challenge in Africa. And are you seeing, you know, these insurtechs or the innovators that you're working with having a potential to create new jobs and so forth? So this is something that I just wanted to kind of bring into perspective. So when you're looking at the benefit, and then also look at it from the risk assessment, you can have a line, and if you look at that, there is a blue line. In between one side that there is some red and the other side that is green. So your desirability threshold is anything on the green side, but also there are some yellow cells that mean that if the application moves to that other side, then, you know, that application is taken. Now, you can always get back to these innovators and ask them to enhance and or reduce their risk. And if that happens, if you look at the second space, then this company managed to review their benefit. So their benefit moved from orange to yellow. And that with that, then before they were out of the desirability threshold that you are looking for as a regulator, then after that, then they kind of now sit within the desirability criteria that you are looking for as a regulator. So let me get to the Excel. So I want to quickly get to Excel just so that we can in a way look at a couple of things. So it's still not at the final level. So it's something that we will have to work together. And that's why I mentioned that I think in the next, those guys that will be traveling to Zambia, we should be able to kind of get into more details and know how then we can develop such tools. So let me know if you can see my screen in a few minutes. What's this?
Yes, we have it.
So you can see it. All right. So let's start with the eligibility assessment. And these are some of the questions. And again, these questions are not cast on stone. We can add as many questions as possible. Then after that, we kind of ask ourselves, how then do we create an eligibility assessment? In this particular case, I have only two. I've kind of created a template for eligibility assessment and benefits assessment. And we will kind of develop this as a team as we go forward. This just to kind of illustrate some things. Now, on the eligibility, we can have different questions. And if you look at the first question, it will be, is the application within the supervisor's mandate and scope? So there are two things that definitely you'll need to answer there. The first thing is the application, is the applicant innovation within the supervisor's remit? In this case, then, is it something that is supporting the growth of the insurance markets? So that one will be a yes or a no. So maybe let me just say here, like assessment, I think, and then I think I can just try and quickly do something here. And then here, we have either a yes or a no. So I can do something here. I can say yes or no here so that we can create a drop down. So I'll come to data tools, data validation. Then I'll say I want a list. I need to select the source. I'll say I'll need those two. And then I'll say okay. So here I can drag this down anyway. But this is something that we'll be doing. So here you have a drop down. So it's okay, fine. Is the applicant within the supervisor's remit? Yes. And then maybe you can have some comments here. Then is the application within the country? So maybe we can say yes. So maybe what I can do here, I can decide to assign some scores. So for a yes is 1, for a no is 0. Then I'll just, okay, fine. Why can't I then have a score here? And then I can say, I can do a VLOOKUP and then say, I look for this in this table. But this is something that we'll be doing in more detail than say that is in column 2. And I have to fix this array because it will not be a moving array. So I'll say, okay, fine. So that one becomes a 1. I can drag this formula down for the purposes of the rest. So whenever I put a 0, I just need to make sure that everything is aligned. So there's one thing that is missing. I need to add another, let's say false. it should work. Yeah. So I think so. The formula here, what it does is kind of looking up for this value yes in an array that we've already set up, and then this item is picking from the second column, and then the reason I'm putting false is that I want an exact match. It's not if you put a true, then it kind of looks for anything that is approximate or near to it. So if you had um, a value that is like 2.1, then it would pick that. So I think that's what we are trying to do. So whenever I change this one to a yes, this one changes and all of that. So we are trying to do an assessment here. And then, within that, then we'll ask ourselves that the total out of this score will be the total of these two. So is equals to, it should be like, we can say, like, let's look like a sum. Okay, fine, it has not picked. Of these two. So that is in essence what will be going to like the mandate and everything. So again, the key thing is really to have as many questions as you can, kind of have a criteria of scoring, and then start now building. So for instance, if we say that this was a no, then that score, the total score there changes as we move by. Then you move to the next, which is basically does the applicant require regulatory approval to operate? So the questions will be, does the application, license, or product require approval from the supervisor to operate within the market? If the application is purely from a third-party provider to an existing licensed entity, then regulatory approval may not be necessary. So again, the issue is that is it something that really passes your eligibility criteria? So again, you'll kind of make a score. And on top of that, you can have a column of comments just to kind of substantiate your scoring. Then, regulatory approval is required if the company is engaging customers directly, if there's a liability that such companies will be holding, or it will be if there is specified regulated is specified as a regulated entity within any existing regulation. So again, you will kind of make some scores around this. So the key thing that I'm trying to show here is that each and every question, and what I'll request you guys to do as we are looking forward to coming to um, Zambia, we will need to come with our specific questions, country specific, for the purposes of developing the toolkit. Now, we'll go through all these questions. Is the applicant sufficiently mature to participate in the sandbox? So the first question is, does the applicant have a clear and well-thought business model and set up how then they are looking into interaction, that it's a yes or a no? Does applicant have a well-developed testing plan with clear objectives? Remember, we talked about testing plan and so forth. That's a yes or a no. And then, is the applicant ready to test the innovation in the real market with customers, including the ability to mobilize the resources? So again, that's a yes or a no. So again, if you remember how we develop this drop down is what we are going to develop here and kind of run the scores. Then the next question would be, is the applicant able to be approved under the existing regulations? So, the key thing is then the question that we'll be asking whether the applicant does not fit in the existing regulatory framework, or either under the existing license category or subject to the existing product requirements, or they have alternative means for engaging with the supervisor. So in this particular case, then it's a yes or a no. And then the other question would be if the applicant will benefit using the sandbox to test their concept in a go live environment. That's a yes or a no. Then you're looking at whether the applicant does meet the fit and proper requirements. So in this case, then you'll have either what type of clearances, so issues around police clearance, issues around whether they are linked with any money laundering. There are other more things that you might bring here, particularly when you talk about corporate governance and issues around fit and proper. You can, in a way, expound this into more elements for the purposes of computing the level of exposure that this eligibility will do. Now, if I can come to a makeshift assessment, eligibility assessment here. So here you'll be able to see that the two that we had previously. So I've tried to summarize the eligibility in 5 simple steps. So under mandate and scope is application within the supervisor's remit and targets local customers. So in this case, then you can do a scoring. So you can say it's a 0, and maybe we can do some conditional formatting here. And say, okay, fine, I want to push this thing down. It's messing me up. How do I, okay, fine. Manage to push it down. So I want to put a conditional format here. So I'll come to color scales. I'll come to rules. I want to use the 3 colors. And in this case, then I'm looking at numbers. So number, I'll put number here, and I'll put number here. And the 0 is the red. So 0 is, I'll choose a red. 1 will say it's something in there. And the maximum number, we can say it's a 2. But we will be able to kind of, well, this is model, then can say, okay, so I can decide to color format that. So in case then I say it's 2, then it kind of shows me that, okay, fine, we are somewhere around the green. So again, this will not just feed from here. It will be feeding from this assessment. We would want the numbers that you get here to kind of come and feed on this template here that we'll be looking at the eligibility assessment. Then the next thing would be regulatory approval. So this will be the next criteria that we'll be looking at. And the question that we have summarized here is that does the innovation require regulatory approval? So, and in this case, then, it has a direct customer engagement. It kind of does some underwriting, and then it kind of takes some premium. So in terms of insurance premiums kind of being deposited to that particular financial institution. So again, we say, okay, fine, that's a 1. Then we go to the maturity. Does applicant have a business model, testing plan, and resources? Those are 3 critical things. So assume that here we were having those items. So let me just copy this and say that these are here. So assume that that's a yes. I just need to drag this down for the sake of illustration. I think we don't have formula, so I can remove that. Then let me also drag the one down like that. So the first question is that, does the business have a clear business plan? So that's a yes. Is it developing a testing plan? We say that's a no. Does the company have resources? So let's say these are yes. So in total, that's a 2. So we should be able to see here that this would be, say, a 2, So in case this becomes a no, so then automatically then this would remain to be a 1. So this kind of gives you an assurance that, look, we are looking at how then these calls will be continuing, but they are coming from this type of setting. Now, as I mentioned, that it will be good for us to really work on this on Excel and definitely develop a framework for each and every regulatory authority when we'll be meeting because we'll kind of go through the basics of creating of data validation, writing some expressions that enables you to do this assessment. Then the next question, if you look at the eligibility, it's regulatory fit. Now, that will be the criteria. We want to look at whether this application has some regulatory fit or basically fits in our regulatory framework. Can the applicant operate under existing frameworks, or is a sandbox necessary? Remember, when we started this discussion, we say that sandbox should not be used to circumvent the law. So whereby if somebody does not want to meet certain requirements of the law, then they'll come and tell you, can you admit us into the sandbox? So in terms of the regulatory fit, and maybe if I go back to what we are talking about, the regulatory fit, we need to ask ourselves whether the application does not fit in the existing regulations. So if we say yes here, and I'll also drag this down, then that means that it has to be admitted. Then the second thing is that does the application benefit from the sandbox? Then either this will be a yes or a no. So then here, if you look at that, the company has scored both of them. Then in this case, then you can easily come and pick a 2. Now, in case then this company did not have anything, it will both no, which is a total of 0. If you come back here, then you will just make a score of 0. Then the last one is fit and proper. So I know there are different criteria that you guys look at fit and proper, issues around fraud, whether somebody has a clean bill of health, issues around whether the organization has passed some the organization has passed the ML checks. So if you come to here, the criteria again, you'll kind of do your assessment. And depending on the score, then you'll be able also to kind of push that forward. And then maybe you'd also want to have a formatting here. So let me just put a new rule here and say it's a 2 color. Not really. Let me just do highlights. So I can say text contains yes, then I'll say fill it with green, like that. Then here I'll say text containing no, I'll fill it with a red. So then you can easily now so then I think also just need to make sure that I put more rules. Just a moment. So I just say yes. Then I can put a format here on that one. Just a moment. Just fill it with a green like that. So let me just see. Yeah, so then, yeah, so it will kind of be working like that, but we should be able to kind of set up this and have a very clear structure on how then these numbers would be coming through. So assume then here we also do a score and say, okay, fine, this one is a 1. Then if you look at the total score here, it's a 5. Now, if you look at your decision matrix, remember your desirability, whether these now will go to the next stage of either, you remember the next of either we have to do a benefit assessment or not. You look at that the score is less than 7. So then it means that we might need to reject this application and tell them that, look, there are certain things that you really need to address on the application. And assume then this application had scored something here like a 2, then here, say like that, then it's a 8. You can give like a conditional approval. And the reason why you are giving a conditional approval, there are certain things that you are seeing is still in amber that you'd want them to kind of work on. Then there are some applications that definitely will be approved with application. That application is approved. Then you take it next to what would be the the benefit assessment. Now, you'll have also to kind of check whether the benefits evidence have been verified, yes or no. And then you also have to put in your comments for the purposes of really relaying that to your managers. Then let's look at the benefit. So here you'll be looking at how then do I assess the benefit. Remember, our first issue would be whether there's an improved customer services through technology or through innovation. So the first question would be, to what extent does the application address existing challenges faced by maybe incumbents or customers? If it's basically offering digital financial services, how is it lowering prices, or how is it enabling higher quality, delivery of the service, and how also does it reduce the risks of the digital financial services? So again, you'll kind of make an assessment around that. So is it a yes? Is it a no? Or maybe you can have even a more elaborate, I would say, scale. So maybe to what extent you can have a 5-level scale whereby you can say to a great extent it does support, and then you can have your reasons behind it, or to a very low extent these particular solutions are impacting. So again, that is something that will need to be scored. Then the second thing will be, does the application enhance competitiveness of the digital services? Then again, you have a number of questions around it. So to what extent it will serve demonstration case to show existing players where opportunity lies, or particularly on when it comes to addressing non-served and underserved, how innovative are the products, process, and technologies that will be tested and will be, and how broadly applicable will they be to the financial services providers, or in this particular case, the insurers. Then to what extent is increased competition likely to lead to lower systemic risk? So in this case, then you're looking at, if this technology comes in, it will kind of reduce the competition for, the most of the products that they are currently selling, because customers will see value out of these technologies to support their business profiles. Now, if you look at that, then you'll kind of come into the benefits assessment. So there is a small benefit assessment table that I did create here. And again, you'll have different scores. Now, this one moves from 0 to 3, because I did mention that you can have not only yes or no, you can have to a particular level of extent. So if you look at it from the first, so in terms of how then I've broken this into the criteria, you look at customer services and innovation, how innovative is this particular platform or technology, and how then does it enhance customer services? So improved customer services through innovation and technology, and there are a number of things that we'll be looking at. Are the prices, are the premiums low? Are the premiums lower? Is it of a better quality in terms of really enabling customer centricity, issues around risk management. How are they managing risks associated to, those technologies? So you can be able to provide a score. So you say, okay, fine, this is really doing good. It's a 2. Then the next thing would be competitiveness. How this technology enhances competitiveness of digital services, and really, building around the innovation, particularly for underserved markets, at long last reducing the systemic risk. So again, here you'll kind of come in and provide the relevant score. So again, you can come, you can put a score based on what is happening. So access and user usage, again, if you go to the benefit here, and these are things that I'll share with you guys before we meet in Zambia, for you guys to add whichever criteria, whichever thing that would work with your market. So if you look at enhancing access and usage of formal services, then you'll be looking at the extent to what extent the application likely to improve value, and that moves beyond just the quality of financial services, but also really looking at different segments of customers. So that's the value that we will be looking for. Then there are issues around whether this increases digitization. So if I go to my benefits assessment here, you will be able to see increased digitization of traditional and informal insurances and transactions. The best thing would be really to look at numbers here, whether that particular organization will have numbers. Then the issues around financial customer benefits. In this case, to what extent is the application likely to benefit customers of financial services, or is really focused on other things? So again, a lot of work going through that. Then there are issues around impact at scale. So what numbers is this applicant saying? Are we likely to hit the numbers in terms of the impact? So if you look at it from the benefits assessment, you'll see that we are looking at scale, so likelihood of the application to reach a significant scale, and issues around jobs, whereby you're looking at the potential of the application to new jobs. So here you can do different scores. So here you'll see I've kind of put as a formula. So let me just show you that. So these are logic function, whereby I'm saying if the score is less than 7, then it's a low risk. It's a low benefit. If the score is less than or equal to 14, then it's a moderate benefit. Then if the score is above 14, then we are saying that that's a high benefit. So let's do some math here. So assume that is a 2, that's an 8. So again, immediately it has moved to moderate. That's a 2, that's a 2, that's a 3. So you see, it's a high benefit solution. But if assume that the scores were quite low, let's see what comes through. So you see, again, that changes to something like low. So low benefit. So here what we are trying to do is that depending, and that's why you see here is the benefit level. So if the benefit level is low, then you also need to look at the risk level. Right. So the last one would be on risk. So risks, you will be now focusing on issues around customer and customer protection risks. So are the products and services to be offered clear and transparent? Benefits and processes, are there terms and conditions that are explained in language understandable to the target customers? So that's a yes or a no. To what extent does the product or service introduce obstacles or put limitations in place that make it difficult or financially for financially excluded vulnerable customer to access? Then again, it's a yes or a no. To what extent could the product lead to customers or agents behaving in an appropriate way? So again, you'll score all those numbers. Then you look at it from the ML CFT risks, whereby now here you'll be looking at issues around the extent of CFT risk, the extent of AML. And again, here we can kind of do a very robust AML assessment. Recently, I was working on an AML assessment toolkit, and maybe I'll quickly kind of show you how that works, because AML is quite extensive for the purposes of this exercise. Then we look at issues around data protection and cyber security risks. So again, you look at elements, how significant is this level of risk, including issues around operational risk. I didn't have enough time to build that, so we would have another template here that talks about the risk assessment, and then the last component will be on the desirability results, whereby now you'll combine both the risk, the benefits assessment and risk assessment to really look at what is the exposure to the business that want to be tested and want to get that license for support. So that is what really needs to be done. And what I did need to mention is that this will require a bit of work to all of us. What I'm planning to do is basically to share with you the templates, this preliminary template, and then also share with you the slides. And my assignment that would be, it's for you guys to start filling in a number of questions that are very specific to your market. And then we are going to really work around this to come up with a final toolkit that you can use for the purposes of assessing risks within your business. So I'll pause there and check whether I can quickly illustrate an ML toolkit that recently I designed for another regulator, just to give us an overview of how then that would feed in into this. But in the meantime, I'm happy to respond to any questions as I get that tool to the screen. Any question? Am I with the people or I lost people?
Yeah, I have a comment.
Yeah, James?
Yeah, I think it's in terms of rating, either the risks or the benefits. I would think that if one is the best, if one is the best in the if like I've seen, we are saying 4 is the best. It brings the highest amount of benefits. But then when it comes to risk, we are saying 1 is the best. Then when it comes to risk, I don't know. I think that we need to be consistent so that when it comes to aggregating the overall risk or getting the net risk, then it becomes easier. So if all of them, if the benefits are rated in a similar manner as the risks, then it becomes easier for aggregating. But I think when we practically do it, I think we'll be able to identify those most challenges. Thank you very much.
So that is something that I thought through because again, would be if somebody sees a risk at 4, you would think that that is the highest risk. And if you see a benefit at 4, you want the benefit to be as high as possible. You want the risk to be as low as possible. So kind of to reduce that confusion, and I totally agree with you. If you kind of say that the risk that is number 4 is the best, then somebody will like, but this number is increasing. I think the higher the number for risk is the worse, the worse it is. And the higher the number for benefit, the better it is. And that's why you see on the slide, that's why I had those two elements whereby it would be quite difficult to have a consistent approach. But the key thing is then when we come to desirability, that confusion would kind of be eliminated, because you don't want somebody to change the way he thinks. Because for instance, if somebody says the risk is 4, you won't say that 4 is the best for risk, because that's the higher the value, the higher the risk in terms of how a person thinks. Then if it's benefit, the higher the benefit, the best a person would think. And that's basically the reason why you saw that in the slide. But again, it doesn't matter. It depends with the structure that it would be required to be accepted or adopted by any regulator. The key thing is then in terms of how then we consistently build that, should be able to illustrate the issues around it. So let me then just show that again for the purposes of you guys really understanding that. Now, if you look at this, the higher, so the low is 0 for benefit, the moderate is 1. Where is this? What have I done? The medium is 1, 2, 3, 4. So the high benefit you'll see is a 4. Now, when it comes to risk, again, the lower the risk, so this is 0, 1, 2. So you can say 1, 2, 3, 4. So you see, the higher the risk is, whereby somebody will say the higher the risk, that would be, why then there's a 4. But as I mentioned, we can look at ways in which, you can adopt consistency. But in this case, then if you look at it from a very normal face value, then you just quickly adopt what I've put in play. That is not something that has to be cast on stone. And that's why I mentioned that I'll share this with all of you. I would really want us to put as many questions as possible. Then we'll go practically and build this through the process for the purposes of developing a toolkit that you can go back to your jurisdictions and start testing it and adopting it for the future. Over. Any question?
Thank you, Elias. I just wanted to find out if it would be possible or ideal for when you are doing the assessment, the eligibility assessment. We've got probably 5 parameters that we have identified, and they are probably additive, and it looks like they probably have an equal importance. Would it be possible maybe to put some weighting in terms of those parameters, where you'd say this one has got more weight than this one, so that maybe when you feed into the score, it would then have more weighting in terms of determining the eligibility, or it's just ideal to have an equal importance among the parameters? Thank you.
Yeah, so what I usually say is that we can sophisticate the model as much as we want. So for instance, if you look at it, then we can have different weights. So let me go back and say, let me go back to the tool and show you something. Where is this tool? I've closed it. Let me just show you. Yeah, so we can do weightings, and again, this is something that you guys can start thinking about if you'd want to do some weightings. So I want to share my screen. Right, so assume that this is what we have, right? Then we can add a column here, insert, and then say weights, right? So out of all this, we know that these will add up to 100. But let's say, how many items are this? These are 7 items. So let's say that this one is 20%. I need to put in a validation. So let me just do this so that it removes the validations. And then say that these are 20%. So let's just do that first. This one should add to 100. So let us say these are 15. These is a 10. These are 5. These are 10. So let's say like that. So in this particular case, then you'll have to, so the final score will not just be like a 7 like that. So we'll have to do what we call a sum product. So this array multiplied by this array. Because then, so we'll get that in this case, then the score in general is 1.15. Now that basically means that again our criteria here will now be between 1 to 4, because if you look at this, is that we are only squeezing this value. We are taking a proportion of it. So we are not just getting a sum of 7 like an arithmetic sum. Here we are getting a weighted sum. So again, then this formula will change, and then we'll now have our criteria here running from 0 to 3, and then that will kind of give us.
Okay.
So let me just then put this one as a 3.
Not Joshua.
Sorry, guys. And just to show you something, that if you put everything, the total sum will be a 3. Now you see that. So are you understanding what I'm saying now? It was who asked this question?
Yes, it was me. Yes, I understood what you're saying, Elias.
So
Thank you.
in this particular case, then when you are bringing weights, you are saying that ultimately the total score will still arrive at 3, but the key thing is that all this score has been distributed with certain weights. So we'll have to change this formula here, and now it will not be just so here we can say if this score is being 2.25, and this one, if it's less than, say, 1.5, then it should, so that one should be high because it's a 3. So if this one goes to, say, a 0, this one goes to a 0, this one goes to a 2. So you'll see that already it's still a high. So I need to just do something here. No, I should have changed this one to come here. I don't want to do that. So so in any case, what I'm trying to do here, what I'm trying to illustrate to you, because this was on 7, I just want to return it where it was, but I'm just trying to illustrate that, what was this one? Was it a 9? I can't remember. See, that's a 9. So what I'm trying to illustrate that as long as we are bringing weights, we are enabling we standardize the total score and make sure that now we are assigned weights to different items, and whichever item that will have the highest weight will kind of now push the score to a different direction. So yeah, so we can assign weights. It depends with the level of sophistication that you want to put, and also the level of like somebody will ask you, okay, under what criteria or maybe it can be based on your judgment. You say, okay, fine, for customer services, we would want this one to be very heavy. So for customer benefits, we'd want this one to be even like 30. For jobs, we don't think that these are very important thing for us. Let's say that that's a 5. For scale, likely for to reach the significant, okay, let's say this is. So again, you will have to come with your weights, and those weights will determine the overall number that you'll be seeing within the assessment. Over. Any other question? I hope it's not too much because today guys are not talking. I think um, it's not making sense. Any other question? Comments? Right. So I think I've managed to kind of complete this series on Sandbox. The next series would be on emerging risks. Again, I've seen there's a hand that has been raised, but in the meantime, Alex will share the slides and this preliminary tool. Our assignment before Zambia for those guys that are coming, kindly fill in, add more questions on this tool. We will kind of now go step by step in developing it. Also, if there are anything that you would want to sophisticate your tool with in terms of the weighting, we should be able to put that along for the purposes of ensuring that the nuances that you want to see in your market are reflected on the Sandbox risk assessment toolkit. Any question? Ken?
Yeah. Thank you, Elias, for this one. This presentation is actually very cool, and actually it came handy considering to what I'm currently working on. So what I want to ask is, where is the position of early warning signal in this heat map on the tool that you just designed? Is there a way we can have the early warning signal inputted or carried along in this?
Sorry, I was
Did you
speaking
hear
when I
me?
was on mute. Yeah, I was speaking when I was in mute. Yeah, so I think
Okay.
that's a very good question, Kenneth. So the next stage of what would be ideal would be like once you've brought the innovators into your ecosystem, they'll be providing to you data sets. They'll be kind of providing you some assessments over time. So like some information. So with that, we can develop an early warning system on top of because this is preliminarily for assessing their whether you need to admit them. Then what now you're asking if you have or now operational organizations that are within your sandbox. What do we do around that? So I think that is something that we will also build during our session in Zambia. And if you have some information on what they submit in Nigeria, kindly carry that. And then we can build an early warning system that can give you a heat map. I know there's some similar work that we've done in Nigeria, whereby we had an early warning system for the incumbent industry. So I think with information, then we can develop an early warning system around this.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Right, so I'll pause there and take it back to Neil and Alex. I think we will be commencing a series on emerging risks, and in particular, we will be focusing on climate and AI as we navigate different emerging risks that happen. Again, this will be on a three-part series, and with that, then we should ultimately be able to kind of develop a stress testing tool for climate risks within our balance sheets, and how then that affects our solvency. So again, be prepared for a series based on, again, the groups that we've been talking about, and the work that we'll be doing there is kind of integrating sustainability risks into financial analysis. But we'll start with first really understanding what that entails. Again, as I've mentioned, this will be a three-part series culminating with a stress testing assessment on climate risks within an insurer's balance sheet. Take it back to Neil and Alex.
Yes, thank you so much, Elias, for this session. Again, really interesting seeing what 3 sessions put together can actually bring together as an output. And thank you to the regulators who have attended. I take it that your silence was more in terms of joy, just what Elias was putting together here. And it seemed very interesting. So as Elias has mentioned, I will share this slide deck with you, the slide deck that we used over the last 2 weeks, as well as this assessment tool. I will get those from him, and you should have those in your mailboxes by tomorrow. So thank you again for that. Just a further iteration again on the working groups. We know that is, no pun intended, but a work in progress, but we will see how best we can make this work. So I'm looking at including an additional session next week, just to answer any questions or any difficulties that anyone is facing, but also to ensure that all members of the group, of the respective groups, are introduced to one another. With that, I just do want to say thank you again to everyone that attended the session. Thank you, Elias, again for putting this together. We have come to the close of this first in a 3-part series, and we look forward to the next one. As Elias has mentioned, the focus will be climate and AI, so which will be closing out with stress testing. So we look forward to that, but we will communicate that with you going forward. So I wish you, actually, I don't know, Neil, did you have anything that you wanted to add before I close out?
No, I'm good, Alex.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
All right. Thank you so much. And everyone, thank you so much. Have a very good rest of your day, and we shall see you again next week. Thank you.